Are you interested in getting a software engineering job at a top tech company like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon? Are you curious about the interview process and are looking for some tips and advice on getting started? Then watch on. My name is Utsav and I make videos related to software engineering and productivity. So if you're new here, please click the subscribe button and hit the notification icon because I will be posting a lot of useful content aimed at helping you get better at software engineering and becoming a more focused and productive person in general. Now that that's out of the way, here are the timestamps for the topics I'll be covering in this video today. These are also in the description below. If you're interested in a specific topic or get bored when I get sidetracked and ramble on, please feel free to jump around to the section that interests you more. Alright, so let's get started. Step 1. Ask yourself, why do you want to work at Microsoft? I think this is an important but often overlooked question that you should ask yourself. Why Microsoft or any other company for that matter? It could be a specific team, reputation of the company, a specific product, compensation and benefits, or any other personal reason. All of them are valid. My advice to you is to at least find a few reasons and make a mental note of it. This will help you find the passion in the process. Step 2. Find the positions you're interested in. Sign up at Microsoft's career website and find a few positions that you're interested in. Start by searching for keywords, then filtering further to match your location, career stage, and area of expertise. Once you have a few jobs, save them in your profile. At this point, you can apply, but whether you will hear back or not is a hit or a miss. The reason for that is because the sheer volume of applicants Microsoft gets. By the time your application meets a recruiter's eyes, the position may have already been filled. There is a better way, which takes me to step 3. Step 3. Build your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, please create one. It is okay to have a bit of a personality in there, but keep it mostly professional. It isn't meant to be like Facebook or Instagram. In today's day and age, paper resumes are becoming irrelevant, especially in the tech world. Sharing your LinkedIn profile should suffice. If you do end up needing a resume as a document, you can always export your LinkedIn profile as a PDF. Creating good resumes is a topic on its own, but I'll offer a few quick tips here. Your resume should read like a list of achievements and not like a job description. Include numbers wherever you can. For example, write, I helped scale Project X from 200 users per day to 10,000 users per day, instead of writing, I worked on Project X. Do mention the tech stack you used for each project. If you're a fresh college graduate, do the same things, only that you will write about your best projects instead of your recent jobs. Step 4. Find a point of contact. The best bet here is if you know someone personally that works at Microsoft. Ask them if they would be willing to refer you. By personally, I mean that you've worked with them or they're aware of your projects and skills as an engineer. Please do not add random engineers in LinkedIn that you do not know. There is no benefits to that. But if you don't know anyone, don't fret. Reach out to a few recruiters on LinkedIn. Again, don't start adding them. Send an email expressing your interest. Do your homework. Don't just say, I want to work at Microsoft. Instead, like I mentioned in step 2, leverage the career website and find exact position that you're interested in. Briefly explain why you're interested, why you think that you'd be a good candidate for this position, why you're passionate for the company and the position. And it goes without saying, please be courteous and respectful. You may need LinkedIn Premium to be able to send emails to people outside your network, but if you're serious about this, I think it's worth the upgrade. Step 5. Prepare for your technical interviews. This is the most difficult part of the process and where bulk of your time should be spent on. Technical interviews at top tech companies are designed to be very difficult and you will most likely need to do extensive prep work regardless of how much experience you already have. And the most common reason I see candidates fail technical interviews is because they don't give themselves enough time. So why are these technical interviews so hard? Logically, these interviews only really test your problem-solving skills based on what you learned in college. But in practice, this is also what makes them hard. We don't normally solve these kind of problems in our daily jobs as engineers. Consider Max Howell's case, for example, who created Homebrew, a very popular package manager. One that is widely used all over the world. But when Max interviewed for an engineering role at Google, he was rejected because he could not invert a binary tree on the whiteboard, even though Homebrew is used at Google as well. It does sound silly when someone who's already demonstrated an ability to create something from scratch and get it widely adopted gets rejected for failing a simple problem-solving question. However, a case like this is an outlier. For majority of candidates, these notoriously hard interviews exist for 3 main reasons. Microsoft or any other top tech company expects their engineers to be well-rounded. It is rare that you'll only do the high-level engineering side of a project and not get into the nitty-gritty of optimizing every little bit of code. One day you may be designing a large-scale distributed system, and another day you may be improving a specific lookup to make it 12% faster because the previous version was using a less effective hashing function. This is the reason you are expected to not only know high-level design but also data structures and algorithmic optimizations. The second reason is to standardize the process. These interviews are very structured. You are told that you will need a very precise list of things and the types of problems you'll be asked. So essentially, they're just like standardized tests like SATs and GREs. In most cases, they aren't the most effective tools to gauge an applicant's intellect, but most top schools require that you get a very high score on them anyways. Why? Because it is the same for every applicant. So it provides a standard framework and it is known to be a difficult thing to master. At the very least, it shows your drive, that when push comes to shove, you can take a very hard challenge and get it done. Also, evaluating anyone in a 45-minute session is difficult. Malcolm Gladwell, in his new book, Talking to Strangers, even makes a point about how we are inherently bad at understanding strangers and how that makes interviewing very difficult. That's why standardizing the process helps make better hiring decisions. Companies like Microsoft also get a lot of applications but hire very few. Hiring the wrong candidate can cost a company a lot of time and money. So it is better to be cautious and selective. The acceptance rate at Harvard for the class of 2019-2020 was 5%. The acceptance rates for engineering jobs at top tech companies is less than 0.5%. These technical interviews helped effectively filter out an immense majority of candidates. Let's talk about what areas these technical interviews cover. Technical interviews at Microsoft cover 3 key areas. The first one is problem solving, or your typical coding interviews. These interviews are probably the hardest ones for most people. You'll be presented with 1 or 2 problems and are expected to solve them in about 30 to 45 minutes. It used to be common practice to ask puzzle-type questions like how to move Mount Fuji, but not anymore. Instead, these will be purely related to core data structures and algorithms. These are also language agnostic, meaning that it won't matter which programming language you use. Just use one that you're most comfortable with. Normally, you're required to write code on the whiteboard, but because of COVID, currently these interviews are virtual and are conducted via CoderPad, CollabEdit, or Microsoft Teams. A good example of a coding interview question is convert a binary tree to a linked list in place. To be able to solve this in a reasonable amount of time, you will need to know at the very least what a binary tree is, what a linked list is, recursion, depth first search, and some other forms of tree traversals. And even with all that knowledge, modifying child pointers in place is very tricky. Not only that, you will be expected to write error-free code, explain your algorithm, come up with test cases and validate those, and discuss both the runtime and time complexities of your solution, all under 45 minutes. This is why they're challenging. Given enough time and access to the internet and your favorite compiler, many more people would likely be able to solve these questions. But without any of those, it is very tricky and takes a lot of practice. Students right out of college tend to do much better in these interviews because their knowledge of data structures and algorithms is pretty fresh. A lot of candidates take the brute force approach at getting better at problem solving by mindlessly solving hundreds of interview questions. Based on my own experience, that approach isn't effective and results in many candidates stumbling in their actual interviews. I won't go too much details about problem solving here to prevent this video from getting sidetracked, but if you're interested in learning more, let me know in the comments below and I can make some more videos solely dedicated to tips, tricks, advice, strategies that I recommend for getting better at coding interviews and doing so effectively and productively. The second area that's covered in technical interviews is system design. System design interviews explore your ability to take something vague and ambiguous and come up with a scalable architecture. Some example questions are design Twitter, design Yelp. As you can see, these are very vague questions. Obviously, you aren't really expected to design the real Twitter. That would be impossible for just one engineer to do, let alone in just 45 minutes. What the interviewer is looking for is whether you can take design Twitter and convert it to a set of solid requirements. For example, what is Twitter? What can a user do on Twitter? What features can we come up just based on few user stories? What is the expected performance? Do tweets need to show up in 5 minutes or instantly? How many users can we expect daily? How are we going to handle the load if it grows significantly? so on and so forth. You get the idea. Once you have those, then you can use your knowledge of various systems to come up with a proposed design that is extensible, reliable, available, and scalable. On top of that, you're also expected to discuss trade-offs of your design. There is rarely any code to be written in these interviews. This is a high-level design process. 90% of interviews that I take are on system design. I love asking system design questions because it relates very well to real-life brainstorming and lets candidates express the breadth of knowledge that they have. Experienced engineers tend to do much better in these interviews. Again, I will keep it short here, but if you want me to talk more about this specifically, let me know in the comments below. The third and most commonly overlooked one by candidates during their prep is behavioral interviews. These can have anything that is non-technical, but generally the interviewer will ask probing questions about your past experiences and projects, looking to understand your approach on various areas like trade-offs, teamwork, communication, budgeting, project management, deadlines, and customer interaction. What challenges you faced and how you worked around them. Instead of reciting quaint answers to known behavioral questions, my advice is to know your work and projects in depth, not only from a technical standpoint, but also from a non-technical standpoint that I just described. There are typically 7 interviews at Microsoft for a software engineering position. The first one really isn't an interview, but rather a conversation with the recruiter to see where your skills and interests align. If you get a referral from someone, you generally skip this step. Then you'll have a phone interview. This is going to be an hour long. 15 to 20 minutes is usually spent on getting to know you, some behavioral questions, and the remaining 40 to 45 minutes is spent on a coding question. If you clear the phone screen, you will be invited to what is called an on-site loop, where you fly into the Microsoft campus, usually Redmond, where you will be interviewing. Microsoft will pay for your flight, food, hotel, and all other expenses. The on-site loop is typically 5 interviews. All of these will also be an hour long, except one, the lunch interview, which is 1.5 hours. As a general rule of thumb, you should expect 3 of these to be coding interviews, 1 system design, and 1 behavioral. This can change a bit depending on how far in your career you are. If you're straight out of college, you will likely get 4 coding interviews and 1 behavioral. If you are a senior engineer, you'll likely get 2 coding interviews, 2 system design, and 1 behavioral interview. On the day of the on-site loop, when you arrive on campus, you will first meet with your recruiter who will answer any question you have and briefly explain to you how your day will be. You are generally scheduled for 3 interviews at first, and if you do well on those, you will get 2 more. I also want to add that Microsoft is a giant company and is always looking for ways to improve the interview process. So certain teams may be experimenting with different interview styles like online assessments. So you could see one of those in your interview process. That being said, the 5 interview format is probably going to hold true for 90% of the applicants. Also, given the COVID situation, all interviews are obviously virtual right now. So as an interviewer, the most important thing I'm evaluating is your problem-solving aptitude. When given a coding problem, hopefully one that you have never seen before, how do you go about solving it? Note that I did not say how do you solve it. I said how do you go about solving it. This distinction I think is critical because I see a lot of people being too obsessed about the solution and not the process of getting to the solution. I'm not trying to say that solving the problem serves no purpose. It does. What I'm trying to say is that between a candidate who flawlessly solves the problem without any discussion whatsoever and a candidate who had all the right ideas, had a lot of back and forth with me, and almost got the optimal solution, I would probably pick the latter one. Because eventually I'm trying to hire someone who I can work with every day. So being able to communicate technical ideas with relative comfort is a huge benefit. Also, please don't memorize solutions to common problems. One, it is really easy to spot when someone genuinely comes up with a solution versus when they already know the exact solution. And also, there is almost always a follow-up question that changes the constraints on the first one. And if you do the first part flawlessly but completely stumble on the follow-up, it is a red flag. In fact, if you get a problem that you've already seen before, be honest and let the interviewer know. You'll get some brownie points for honesty. The interviewer may ask you to solve it regardless or make some minor changes which will only work on your favor. In the interviews that I conduct, I generally pick a random question, usually from a real life scenario related to system design that even I don't know the exact solution to. If we can work together to get to a solution, it is a strong indication that I can work with this person on any random problem in real life. And if the candidate goes even further and drives the discussion to lead me to the solution, they are not only great to work with, but can also teach me a thing or two. That is awesome. So the key takeaway here is that when you prep for your technical interviews, do not forget communication. Ask questions if you are confused or stuck. Coding is already a very structured thing. Don't be afraid to add a little personality or a human element to it. Think of an interview as a collaborative effort where you are solving a problem together, where you are driving. and not like a test where someone is evaluating you with a cold heart. As an interviewer, I want you to succeed as much as you do. I understand how much effort and dedication it takes to even get to the on-site interviews. I've gone through it multiple times myself, and I empathize with you and want you to do your best. Communication is even more critical for system design and behavioral interviews because those are very open-ended. There is no optimal solution to those. So it is imperative that you take those as a technical discussion between two engineers. Ask for advice. Take advice. Don't be afraid to disagree politely if you have an alternate approach, and offer your trade-offs. Also, like I said before, don't be afraid to admit that you're stuck or don't know something. Nobody knows everything. I'm a senior engineer because I have a wide area of experience, not because I know everything. In fact, I routinely learn new things from junior engineers and interns. This is a valuable mindset to have, not only for your interviews, but in life in general. If you're a serious person, be serious. If you're funny, be funny. Don't try to be someone else in an interview because someone told you that it works better, or someone else who was a certain way did well in their interviews. Be yourself. Finally, even though your interviews at Microsoft will mainly be focused around your technical expertise, your interviewer will always be looking out for valuable attributes like customer obsession, drive for results, teamwork, and leadership. So always keep those in the back of your mind. And if you ever get a chance to display that, by all means do so, especially in the behavioral interviews. Once you finish your on-site interviews, each interviewer will discuss their feedback and recommend a hire or a no hire. This is where Microsoft differs from other companies like Google, where they send the feedback over to a separate hiring committee that will make the hiring decision. At Microsoft, the team that you are applying for does both, conduct the interviews and make the hiring decision. Typically, you need an overwhelming majority to recommend a hire to get an offer. This is usually 5 out of 5 interviewers recommending a hire, or at least 4 out of 5 recommending a hire. The decision is then sent over to HR and recruiting, who will start preparing your offer package and then go from there. You will usually hear back in a week, but if you are a fresh graduate or applying for an internship, you may even hear back the same day. If you made it this far and got an offer, congratulations. Pat yourself in the back, go have a beer or something. From here on, it's mostly smooth sailing. This is where you discuss the terms of your compensation that includes your base salary, a sign-on bonus, and company stocks, your benefits, your relocation package, and your start date. It is not very common, but you may also get an offer for a slightly lower position than the one that you had applied for. For example, you may have applied for a senior role and got offered a position for a software engineer 2 role. This typically happens when you didn't do well enough for a senior position, but did very well for a level 2. If this happens to you, don't take it as a bad thing. It just means that the team that is interviewing you knows what it takes to succeed as a senior, and they feel that you need a little bit more development as a level 2 before you can hit senior. If you're okay with that, take the offer, work hard, and show progress, and in no time you will hit the position that you initially wanted. If you didn't get the offer, please do not let your chin drop. Sometimes it is just bad luck. Or you could be very close and barely missed out. Keep at it. That being said, there is usually a cool-off period of 6 months to a year before you can reapply. But please do try again. Don't give up. You'll be surprised how many people make it in their second or third attempt. I'll share my personal story. When I graduated from college, I applied to 57 companies and did not hear back from a single one. Forget interviews, forget rejection. I didn't even hear back. Had big dreams of working at a top tech company, but eventually I had to get a job at Geek Squad at Best Buy to pay rent. But I met some amazing people there, some of whom are still my friends. So it wasn't all that bad. After I completed for my master's, I applied to 40 companies, heard back from only 6 of them and interviewed with them. Got an offer from only 1. After working there for a while, I applied to Amazon and Microsoft, interviewed at both, and accepted an offer from Microsoft. And now I've interviewed candidates at Microsoft for more than 5 years. And I'm making a video about how to do well on interviews. From hearing back from 0 out of 57 companies to being able to give advice on interviewing, the point I'm trying to make is that you get better at it each time you do it. And trust me, it is doable. If I can do it, you can too. Just don't give up. Grit and relentless drive will take you a long way in life, not just your interviews. And by the way, I still have that original Excel sheet of 57 companies that I applied to. I keep it around for motivation. I hope that this gave you a good overview of Microsoft's technical interview process, what interviewers are generally looking for, and some tips on succeeding at these interviews. I couldn't go in depth about every little detail to keep this already long video from getting too long, but if you want more detailed information on any of these topics that I discussed today, please let me know in the comments below and I will try to make the ones that are most requested. Also, if you have any questions for me that pertains to your personal job situation that you don't feel comfortable posting publicly, please feel free to message me on Instagram. That's the best place to get a response from me, not LinkedIn. And if you're interested in other software engineering and productivity content, subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. Until next time, peace.
You have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to